Good. So, good evening. Welcome,
Hello.
everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are just waiting one or two more minutes before we start the presentation. Please, can you confirm that you hear us well?
Yes.
Hello, Joanne.
Hello.
I see some name which I've read before. Nice to have you here. Is the sound clear? Do you hear us well?
Okay. Yes. Sound and image. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I hope you're doing fine. And thank you for joining us on a weather sunny day. In Luxembourg, we never know what exactly is the right uh, meteor weather. Okay. Maybe I can do some housekeeping notes before we start. So, yes, the presentation will be recorded and will be available on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube page. Give us a few days for the YouTube. Facebook, it will be available directly after we finish the live. So, if you have to leave earlier, no problem, you're welcome. And you can rewatch or you can recommend the video to others.
It's maybe better to connect with your computers than with your mobile phones.
Yes, we see few people here are
Yeah.
connected on mobile phone. We cannot, the system, the web conferencing system doesn't support mobiles. It seems to work, but there's no guarantee that it will
Yeah.
work. We also have, if you get kicked out or if you have any technical problems, you can join on Facebook Live. Also, you can follow up, but you will not be able to interact with us here in the chat. We will from time to time we will have a look at questions if there are any questions on Facebook, but it's easier here.
Yeah.
So for those who are not used to do video conferencings, um, you have on the right side, you have a chat window. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please post the questions at that moment here in the chat, and we will try to answer all the questions.
Yeah.
Though there is no stupid questions, there are only stupid answers. So please don't be afraid to ask any questions. Um, Yes, I think we will have for 1 hour and a half, depends on your questions and how fast we speak. Today is we are not used to do it in English, so if our English is not perfect, please excuse us. It's not our mother tongue.
No.
But we found it important that we also offer our content for English-speaking people because Luxembourg we have over 50% foreigners in the city, so it's maybe interesting to offer also those people informations. Um, the anxiety is it's a really interesting topic. We do it quite often. Um, I start with the best news. Is that's the topic where we have the best results with neurofeedback and neuromodulation. The things we are doing. It's the fastest and the quickest results. So that's for the good reason. The bad reason is there are a lot of reasons why you could be in an anxious state, a stressed state, because what's happening right now in the world, in
Mm.
Ukraine, the climate, the price increase, lots of different things. I think there are enough reasons to be anxious because often people, we see the anxiety very clearly in the brain, and we'll see the brain maps afterwards. But people often ask me, why am I anxious? The why is not the right question. It's a state, and it can be come through different reasons, and we'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's time to introduce ourselves before we go really into the content. My name is François Altis. I'm the founder of Neurofeedback Luxembourg. I started Neurofeedback Luxembourg in 2013, and today it's the first time we
Yes.
have Lou Rees, who is our newest team member, who joins us. Melanie is at home enjoying, hopefully, her evening with her boyfriend, which was his anniversary today. But she will join us again maybe in the next one. So welcome to all the people who joined. We
Welcome.
go right into we start the presentation, and I start by maybe introducing the teams. Is for some people who joined us uh, for more conferences. Yes, we have new photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did great work in August working on the Future Now website. We got also professional photographer. We shoot a lot of videos. So some things are coming. This is the team. So Melanie, who is with me over 3 years, Reese, Lou, who joined us in January this year,
Yes.
and Patrick, who joined us in June. He will not work on the clinic side, but he's our problem solver for lots of things. You will have to do with him if you don't pay your bills. So he's a nice guy till that
Yeah.
moment. Okay. What are we talking today? First, what data do we have about the anxiety problematics in our society? We try to differentiate what is the stress and what is anxiety, and what are the long-term effects. How can we measure and visualize these different things? What are the most common questions we got asked? We repeat every day the same. So, and then finally we come to the solutions and what is really helpful. And the traditionals and the new ones with neurofeedback neurostimulation. We will present a case where we see really the changes happening in the brain. And then the last point, there's a good reason to stay with us till the end, because you will have we will make a special offer for people who watched this webinar, who will be viable for a few weeks. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's go on. So, where are we located? We moved last year into our new office, which is a co-working space, really friendly and nicely designed, which is called Silver Square Liberté, which is at the Gare, 3 minutes from the train, 3 minutes from the tram, so easily joinable. This place is also accessible also for people with handicaps. And if you try to join us, don't search for phone number. We are not joinable by phone, but you can take appointments, you can send us messages, and we reply when we are not working with clients. What are we doing? We are doing mainly neurotherapy in the terms of measuring the brain. We measure also the autonomous nervous system, the sleep, and several other things. Then we provide solutions with neurofeedback, neuromodulation, neurophotobiomodulation. And we also measure the output of your brain by some online cognitive tests and some health questionnaire to have a before and after precise view, because neurofeedback is a really scientific approach. And my mantra is you can only change things if you can measure them. So we try to go as much as possible outside of the subjective the subjective part, and try to go into objective measurable things which then can be changed. For who do we offer our services? I don't like to say it for everyone, but in fact it is. We start doing trainings from children starting at 6 years old, but I did even brain maps on really early children too, but no training. So we try to reorganize our offer into the different categories. So first you have the learning and developmental disabilities. This is more obviously more for the children, ADHD, but not only for children, ADHD and oppositional disorder, all the learning disabilities, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, the whole universe.
Spectrum.
Yes, and then the spectrum from autism, Asperger, we have quite a few, and also since COVID, we have way more high potentials and hypersensitivity people coming. I don't know why, but we see more of them. Then we have the second category of people where we can help is the instability and the brain alterations. These are more serious things like epilepsy and absence, but also migraine and headaches, but even going to neurodegenerative disease like dementia, Alzheimer, and Parkinson. We have some really good results with brain injury and stroke things. And then these are more serious things. This category needs lots more sessions than the other categories because these are structural damage to the brain, and there we need to do more sessions. But it is it's not it can be changed. Then we have this is more the topic of today, the stress and the emotional distress. So the anxiety, panic attacks, but also going to obsessive compulsive disorder and tics and tocs. So these are things which are linked to anxiety, but also depression. And there's also a link between anxiety and depression. Maybe we'll have time to talk a little bit about it. Then PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And the common point, that's why most people find the way to us, is sleep and insomnia problems. But you don't need to be ill to come to us. We can also help with performances and optimization. So because these are not diagnostics, you don't, but it's more about improving your wellness and your well-being. So it's about burnout, bore-out, which makes the same damage to the brain than the burnout, but also the midlife crisis and the loss of meaning. If you want to improve mental performance, if you want to improve sports performance, if you want to improve your resilience or resistance to stress, we are here. So no, don't hesitate to contact us. So now I hand over to Lou.
Thank you, François. We would like to introduce the subject with some data, saying that 21% of adults will be affected by anxiety disorders in their lifetime. So that's quite a lot. And it tends to be that women are doubly affected. So these numbers are quite a lot, but it's maybe not really accurate because often women are the ones that will the most search for help and go reach healthcare professionals like us. And for example, twice as many women as men are our clients. So that's maybe not really accurate numbers. But in France, in 2014, 26% of people experienced fairly intense stress in their lives, when in 2021 it reached above 35% for anxiety and depression. That's what we are focusing a lot on. Nearly 66% of people suffering from sleep disorders. And that's important for us because sleep is at the basis of everything. It's at the basis of immune system, mood, focus, memory.
I think there's some cliche inside it about women and men, but what we tend to see is that women are more connected to themselves, to their body, and they feel that something is not wrong. Whereas the cliche of the man is, we don't need to talk about it. Let's have a beer, and then we go sports, and then it will work out. Hopefully for them, this is true. But what we learned with this whole COVID thing and the whole uncertainty, which we are facing, actually, our whole civilization, is it doesn't go away. And you need other ways to help to reduce, to get back to normal. Even the normal is not the same normal than before.
Often when you suffer from a sleep disorder, from depression, you don't know that it's in fact anxiety. So that's the problem too. That's underdiagnosed.
Absolutely. Because you can learn to live with anxiety, so get used to it. But it's not a healthy state. We will see why later.
Yeah. It's a good transition. And so how to distinguish anxiety and stress? So stress is normal. Stress is a physiological reaction of our body. So it results from the evolution. When we had to face a danger, we had to mobilize our resources to flee or to fight. When you see a stranger in the street that is with a knife, you have to fight or you have to flee. And so you have to mobilize your muscles, mobilize your adrenaline, and so that's why stress is useful and we need it, but we need it on a very short time.
And very few often, because our ancestors only saw maybe twice a year a tiger.
Yeah,
And the problem today is that the phone ring from the mother makes the same stress.
yeah, we will. Yeah, for
Exactly.
example, now in today's society, stress is very much widespread because we have the same nervous system that we had hundreds of years before,
Thousands.
thousands, yes.
Yeah.
But our ways of life are fairly different, and today we live in constant stress. So these symptoms, concentration issues, irritability, sleep disorders, tend to be constant. And when it stays for a long time, we don't talk about stress, we talk about anxiety. And that can lead to very significant mental and physical disorders. And that's the subject today. Just a note about post-traumatic stress, so PTSD, which is a more more severe form of anxiety. So it happens often after a trauma, even several weeks or months after the event. But that's more severe than anxiety.
And we did also recently a conference about that, which was really a blow, which was, and we do it also in English about the PTSD, because PTSD is really topic apart.
Yeah, and it's widespread too.
Oh, yeah, sadly.
So I'm not going into a lot of details because I assume that if you're watching the webinar, you already know what are the symptoms, but just a little word about it. There's a lot of psychological symptoms. It's not mandatory to have all of them, but for example, anticipating the future a lot, what we call worst case scenarios, such as if this happened, then she's gonna die, or if I'm going to talk in front of the class, they're going to make fun of me for sure, or some things like that. Nervousness, panic state, hypervigilance. Yeah, we can have a few of them or all of them. It depends.
Yes.
François?
So I just want to introduce a new topic, which is quite new into the science part and not so well known in the public and in the medical world, which is the link between from the cellular level, because often we measure the anxiety and we see it and then we show it to the clients and then they ask, why should I have anxiety? Where does it come from? There is maybe a new way of seeing the origin with the causes of the anxiety, because the causes anxiety is a really complex phenomenon in the body, but there can be two either helpers or Angels or Assassin is the first book I can really recommend. This is more about the microglia. These are the cells which, till a few years, medicine thought they are just there so that the neuron are fixed, so that they float around. They are okay, but they have a function. And the mitochondria, which are the power cells in every cell we have, they have exactly the same. And if you look at the title of the two books, they both promise to change the medicine. And I just finished the first one, The Angel and Assassin, and it is really fascinating book. And it talks also a lot about what you can do if your body makes you anxious. It's not the head, it's not the psychological. So, and that's the difference, because what we do is we work not only on the psychological part, but because we do neurostimulation, modulation, and photobiomodulation, we also work on a cellular level by helping this mitochondria and microglia, which are really important, to regenerate and to bring you back to a state of equilibrium. So
to balance,
more balanced state, because both they can produce happiness, but they also can produce the anxiety and depression. Yes.
Okay. And so little transition, we also have physical and physiological symptoms, as we talked about the psychological symptoms. These are symptoms that are really known in case of a stress. We have an increase of heart rate, increase of respiratory rate, blood pressure. You can sweat, have more tensed muscles, and those who are less known, I don't know if you see the mouth, maybe, yes. Can be sleep disorders and digestive disorders, and that's quite a subject by us because the gut is our second brain, and it's important to know that 95% of the serotonin in the body is produced in the gut. So that's quite a lot. That's the neurotransmitter that managed mood and managed a lot of things such as homeostasis in the body, state of happiness. And so we easily understand why the digestive system can be very disturbed when we.
And that's why we integrate it also in our treatment plan. It's part of our treatment. We will stimulate the gut to better self-regulate. Okay.
Yes. So those are symptoms that are okay if they are not on the long term. But when we talk about anxiety, we talk about the long term effects.
When is long term for you?
Long term is
longer than 6 months.
Yeah, but even
or years. As I told before, the problem is with anxiety. It's the same as with depression. You can get used to it, and you learn to live with it, and you arrange. But at one moment, one of these symptoms, the body will tell you it's enough. Because even if you get used to it and you can live with it, the body is not. The body keeps the score. So someone famous told me.
Yeah. And when anxiety says, we can have, so when we feel, when we're stressed, so a lot of resources and energy is used to fight or to flee. But when this state stays, we can feel chronic fatigue, we can feel, so as we said, digestive problems, and even we can have a decreased fertility and libido, and that's less known. And why it can be the case is because when your body is
thinks it's in danger.
He thinks it's in danger. All the resources are going to the vital organs. Yes, and so why would you reproduce yourself if you're in danger? That's not logical. So
the problem with the often people tend to look at their symptoms separately. So they will take care of the diabetes because the doctor told them, hey, this is serious. Then maybe the hypertension comes up. Oh, okay, then we take care of that. And then maybe the irritable bowel syndrome or the digestive. Okay, but the cause is the anxiety, not and don't treat the symptom, go to the cause.
And that's why it's so underdiagnosed, and so that's why we said that the numbers are not really accurate at the beginning. Okay, so we see that there's a lot that's happening in the body, but so with all the hormones produced, what changes are happening in the brain? So we will see that it will change its constitution. So for example, the amygdala is the main character in this case because the amygdala is the one that alerts us when there's a danger. So for example, when you're walking outside and you hear a noise, the amygdala will hyperactivate and tell you that okay, there's a danger, you have
Maybe
to pay
there's the
attention.
tiger. Maybe
Yes,
there's the tiger coming.
maybe there's a tiger, but fortunately we have when it's a normal state, we have our prefrontal cortex that is rationalizing and analyzing the situation, and it's telling you that there's no tiger in Luxembourg, it's okay, you can go down and calm down. Okay, so and the amygdala stands on standby, and things are going back to normal. So that's when everything is going okay, and
That's the
we are
best
fine.
case. That's the best case.
But with chronic anxiety, the amygdala is constantly activated, like it's constantly looking for danger, and you are in hypervigilance, and you think the amygdala thinks it's must always keep an eye
Control.
on what is yes.
And if you're searching for danger, you will always find
Yes.
something.
So it's always activated, and like for a muscle in the brain, when a structure is always activated, the connections are more strong, and so
It's a vicious circle.
It's a vicious circle, and it inhibits the prefrontal cortex, so there's no possible rationalization anymore. So like for a phobia, there's no returning back to normal, no rationalization. You know that there's no tiger in Luxembourg, but you will go.
You will check. You will check out if there's no tiger. Really,
you'll be afraid, and
you never know.
Yeah, you never. But and that's what we call hypervigilance. So the brain, as it's written, no longer escapes the state of stress. And so you're not in the present moment, you're always anticipating what is going to happen, and you're always stressed. And so the whole nervous system is irritated.
It's what we call a parasympathetic state. No,
sympathetic
state. Sorry, parasympathetic. Yeah, not the parasympathetic.
Yeah. And so as we have physical changes in the brain, it implies cognitive changes as well, such as memory.
Often people come to us, oh, I can't concentrate, oh, the memory is bad, but it's not the memory issue. The memory is the consequence of something else.
Yeah, and so we can think on a proper way, and we have cognitive issues, but the cause is anxiety. Okay.
So from here I take over. So as I said in the beginning, you can only change things when you can measure them. We are the specialist of the brain. So what we do the whole day is put electrodes like this on the head, and we listen to your brain, and we analyze, we record brain activity, because the brain is a complex system, the most complex in the whole universe. But it uses two systems. It uses a chemical system, which has the disadvantage you can't measure what's going on in the brain, apart if you drill holes in the brain, which I wouldn't recommend. But you can easily put these caps on, and you can record the electrical activity of the brain. Then this looks like it doesn't mean anything for you, but we are watching these 8 hours every day, a few hours per day. Important to say, it is painless, and in difference with the hospitals where they use gel, we now switched over to gel-free systems. So we have caps with just saline solution, so water with salt, which leaves no trace. And
ladies, you can come.
Yeah, you can come, and your hairdresser will not be afraid to see you again after that. And but we don't do diagnostics. The neurologist is allowed and trained to see lesions and other things. We don't diagnostic, but what we do is we analyze the different components, and we do in fact what is called a quantitative analysis. So we not only watch the wiggles, because they are really telling you a lot about you. Most of our clients are amazed when we tell them what's going on inside them. Not the content. I can't see what you are dreaming or what you're thinking of, but I can definitely tell you how you think.
It's a good way to learn a lot about yourself.
Exactly. So these are the different brainwaves we are watching. These are different speeds of frequencies of waves, and they have different forms. Um, is this the pointer on? Yes. So you have the forms of the waves, and what we have in comparison to the neurologists, it's exactly the same technology, but we have a few databases where thousands of brains are inside who are from 6 months old till 85 years of age. And inside these databases are brains which are normal, whatever that means. I'm not normal. Are you normal?
No, I'm not
No.
normal.
Okay. I never saw a normal brain, but these are references. And these allow us to see, oh, this is too much delta, not enough theta, or whatever. And this we can interpret. So these are the normal brainwaves we use. That's going from the slow delta, which are from zero point 0.5 to 4 hertz. These are the waves we do during the deep sleep or when the brain tries to repair itself. And these are quite rounded, big waves, slow waves, but you don't want to have that during the day because otherwise you are, yeah, like in a coma state. So then you have the second type of waves, which are called theta, and all these brainwaves are good and positive. So both aspects. It depends more on where and how much you have them. Theta, for example, uh, uh, is comparable to the state when you're, it's a modified state of consciousness where you go into small, just before you're going into sleep. So it's a hypnagogic state, we call it. But it's also, it's like dreaming, daydreaming. That's a theta. But theta is also creativity. Theta is also linked to memories. So, yeah. Then we have the most important and my favorite waves, which are the alpha waves. They are the most beautiful waves, and you can recognize, even if you never looked at brain waves, because they are waxing and waning like a cigar, and they are symmetrical, and you recognize them. And that's also why they're called alpha, because it was the first one discovered. So that's why they're called alpha. Alpha is it's not a fast wave and it's not a slow wave. It's exactly in the middle. It's the idle rhythm of the brain. When the brain does nothing, it goes into alpha. But it's also it's comparable to when you're in a really relaxed or meditative state. So then when you're doing yoga, meditation, whatever kind of relaxation, that normally produces alpha.
On your couch in the evening.
Yes.
Chilling.
But you are awake, but you're not connected to the outside world. You are inside you. So not watching TV. That's beta already. And alpha is the relaxing part. But again, don't forget what I told you. It's the dose. If you have too much alpha, you have problems. And depending where, if you have it on the frontal left, then we are going into depression, sadness. If you have too much alpha on central point, this can be anxiety, a form of anxiety, specific one. So then you have the beta. I hope that you're actually all in beta state so that you are alert, that you're connected, that you are listening, that you are analyzing what they tell you, the images and everything. This is the mental activity. Beta is a broad range. It goes from 12 to 25 hertz. But above 20 hertz, it's already stress. And then you have the last category. This is I call this also the tiger waves, because this is the waves you go into when you're into hypervigilance. So, and look how they look like. Oh, you don't want to feel it. It's not nice. But again, you can get used to it. You don't have any idea about. We scanned over 2,000 brains. I would say almost 1,500 have high beta activity, which is not usual. And from the ecological point of view, from the energy point of view, because the brain is the main energy consumer in the whole body. This is over. You over. If you are into hyper beta, you have the sense of control. You are really fast, etc. But it's not tended to be over long term. Short term, high beta, yes, solve a problem, go back to beta, go back to alpha. Because if you stay in the high beta, you spend all more energy than you have to spend. So you're living on credit, like the Earth. Yes. So this is a few examples how we can measure. For example, if you have the colors is the comparison with the database, with the norm. So if you have too much, it's going to red. If you have not enough, it's blue. So an example of someone, anxiety can take a lot of different forms in our brain maps. Um, if you have the head blue, light blue, more heads, this could be a form of anxiety. If you have only one frequency like the delta, it can be lack of sleep. Here you have a nice example how anxiety could look like, but this one is even more extreme because it's even faster.
Yeah.
Don't try to remember everything because it's really hard to interpret this without knowing the person and without having analyzed lots of different brains. So yes, here this can be related to depression. This can be really more anxiety. There are different forms of everything. You need someone like us to interpret this data. So, what is the most frequently asked questions? Do you need to do this brain map QEG, the first step where we analyze and measure the brain? Is that mandatory? Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Why? Yes. Did I say yes?
Yes.
Yes. Why? Because I wouldn't. We have wonderful, powerful tools, and I would never, ever, never, ever use any sign, any of these tools on the brain without knowing what is going on in the brain. So this is the power. We do what we call it. This is the American approach, the US approach to neurofeedback. First, we analyze, we make this brain map, we show, we see what is going on in the brain, and then we adapt the trainings and the treatments according to that. So, are you? Do you need to do neurofeedback after? No. Sometimes just doing the QEG is really helpful for the people to realize things and to change things. So, or it's only for discovering things about you. How long is between recording and the getting the results? We need to do some analysis. You need to do some tests. So this takes normally approximately 1 week. Can be a little longer if you have too much things going on at the same time. Are there any contraindications for doing neurofeedback or coming to us? No. Uh, it's more difficult if you have some metal in the head, if you have deep brain stimulation, if you have some very specific, strong medications. Talk to us, ask us, we know. So, are there any age limitations? We can do the brain maps really early. So, you don't have to wait. Typically, example is the ADHD. Uh, Usually, it only gets detected at the age 7 or 8 because when you start to school, but we can not diagnose, but we can confirm your suspicion or not even earlier. Is this covered by the national health system? Not in Luxembourg, not today. If you know that, if you're aware of that, even psychotherapy is not reimbursed, then I think I will get, I will be in pension or whatever when this will change, if the current state does, the speed of change does not change. Can it be? Can I have a partial reimbursement from your insurance company? It depends. There's no yes or no. I know that, for example, European institutions, they have a budget per year which they could spend on prevention, so that could be used. But it's you are the one who have to ask your organization under which conditions this could be refunded partially or totally. Always think about, often they will ask from a psychiatrist a diagnostic to get more than 20% reimbursement. And then you have to think about the advantages of a long term over having a diagnostic or not. Sometimes it's not so interesting. So, what is the traditional or the not traditional, but the normal or the usually ways to help anxiety? Here we noted some names. I don't like these names. When more I see if this is maybe one
Yeah.
contraindication where neurofeedback doesn't work. If you need a paper to write down all your medications, that's not a good idea. So the most common are the benzodiazepines, Xanax, Temesta, Valium, Lysanxia. There are lots of different names for this molecule. This molecule it works. It's really helpful, but short term. If you stay, it doesn't make any sense to take 10 or 20 years Xanax. And I know my grandmother took it during 20 years. Now I know it, but that doesn't make any sense. Why? Because there's a really high tolerance. So what does that mean? So you get really your body gets used to it, and you have to go up with the dose. So that's the basic mechanism of addiction. So don't do it. It's helpful, but for short term, and to go into the causes. Other alternative medicines are like acupuncture, homeopathy. For some people it works, other not. I don't. It's really different what we are doing. Yeah. There are some supplements who can really helpful with anxiety. There are a lot of different things. Again, it's not our mission to tell that, but we recommend almost everyone to start magnesium and omega-3 when they start here. Then there's also more either brain, mental-based interventions like psychotherapy. But as I mentioned before, your anxiety can come from your body. Then the psychotherapy will not help you. So, but you have also more body-based interventions, which we really recommend. We are really big fans of meditation. I practice everyday meditation and yoga. Yoga is a really a good way to help you get resistant to anxiety and stress. But our mission and our goal is to work with the neurotechnologies because there are several big advantages. The big advantage is we don't go to the causes, but the cause why you have anxiety can be multiple, and they will not find a definitive answer. But what we do with neurofeedback is we go to the source, and going to the source of the problem is the brain, and it works. So how can you imagine how does it work? So once we done this brain mapping, we show you the nice pictures about what's going on in your brain, and we agree that this is how the way we will approach it. Then you can start the neurofeedback training. We call it the training because it's like the brain is like a muscle, it can be trained. So these are sessions. You each time you get this nice EEG cap with no gene on the head, and then you get a feedback, neurofeedback. Our system measures in real time your brain waves and compare these to the databases. Or is it too much beta, not enough delta, whatever, at which location? And we, as trainers, we know which targets we will train in which order. And this is really based on a lot of experiences. So we, depending on the target and depending on your brain waves, the film, the image, or the sound will react in real time. In real time, it's 30 milliseconds between we take the measure on the head and the image changes. You don't have to do anything. You cannot even control it. For you it's like watching a film on a television which has some bad contact, which is a flickering screen, something like that. But it's enough to tell the brain that it's like telling the brain 30 times per minute, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And it's strange for the people sitting here, but the third session you get used to it, you will not notice it. And what is important, the content of the film is not important. The film is the support where your brain imprints and reacts to how to better regulate for better regulation. There is no mental effort. You don't have to be concentrated. That doesn't work. The brain will not learn unto that. It's a self-regulation mechanism, and the results stay. Um, but we use a lot of different techniques. I like this part. Sometimes we are a little bit called like magicians. Last time, client called me a magician because we combine the neurofeedback, which is a learning process. It's an operant conditioning. It's a learning. The brain learns to readapt itself, but we will give the brain a little bit help. How? Because we will stimulate the brain. Some example: if you are the classical, the most common anxiety form, which is high beta centrally, then we will stimulate your brain with slow waves, just a few minutes, just enough, 2 minutes maybe is enough, just before you start to train with slower waves. What will that do? Your brain wave will go down. And one moment, your shoulders will relax. Your breathing will change. Your hands will get warm. Your feet will get warm. Your eyes will be more open. Not open, but yeah, you. Yes, you will be, and then we start with the neurofeedback, where your brain learns to stay in that state. What kinds of stimulation we have? We have mainly three. We have magnetic. It's not the TMS. It's not the strong magnetic fields. It's more or less the power of your iPhone, I would say, but we have control of the frequency. And depending on where we put the magnets, we often put them on the gut, the second brain. We use a lot of electrical stimulation. We can stimulate the nervous system. We can stimulate the brain. It's not electroshocks. For you, it's like tingling. It's someone like tipping on your head. That's all. And the newest one, which is the nicest one, the sexiest one, is the photobiomodulation. What does that mean? It's not light therapy. It's we shine light through the scalp on the brain, which has fantastic effects even at the cellular level. Think about microglia, think about mitochondria. And this is really, really useful and happy. It's a form, you can think of these three forms of neuromodulation as we give the brain the power to induce the changes you want. And we help the brain get faster to it.
We induce neuroplasticity.
Exactly. So why does neurofeedback and neurostimulation work? Because again, we go to the source, not the cause. The cause is maybe your genetics, what happened to you in life, whatever. We cannot change that, but we can go to the brain and change it. There are no or few side effects. The most common, okay, you will feel pressure, you will maybe get tired, but nothing special, and you will feel directly. If you stimulate, if you are overactive in the high beta, and we stimulate you a few minutes and we train you to get into more relaxed alpha state, believe me, you will feel it. And it's a scientific basis. It's proven. There are over 50 years of research. If you go to PubMed, you type in neurofeedback, you will find over 2,700 studies published. Not all well done, not all the gold standard, but there is a mechanism and it works. So, a case study. How does it look like? So this is a typical case of a really stressed, anxious person. This is common for us. It looks dramatic. It's not dramatic, but it doesn't feel good for that person. What do we see? We have a mixture of, we have first hypervigilance, we have the high beta state. So the brain is using much energy, and which depletes all the other frequencies. So there's no more energy for that left. If you don't have more energy here, you're not flexible. You're either on or you're off, but you cannot regulate. You're on off. We call that the on off switch. And you have no resources. The sleep is bad. The memory is bad. You are not living in the moment. You are in the future, anticipating, or in the past, but not in the moment. This is what things look like. And here, okay, non-recovery sleep, you have the celebration, you have even the, I forgot this one, which comes often with anxiety. When the anxiety goes down, this often comes up, or in the other order, this is the obsessive thought. So which is a mechanism of the brain to not feel anxiety. Because if you repeat the whole time the same thing, what is that good for? But it's good you there can no tiger coming in because you know what's going on. It doesn't make you feel good, but there's no new danger coming in. It doesn't work. It's not a good strategy. We have a bad coping mechanism
Yeah.
there. Okay, this is a nice, really good, nice result. After 12 sessions of neurofeedback, this is how the brain map looks like of that person. This is nice. This feels completely different. And you see here the relaxation goes from 7 to out of 10 goes to 2. There's still something left. The person, this person, for example, we have still the lack of alpha, but way less than before. This person, for example, I would really recommend go do yoga and meditation. This will help you. There's still some traumas left, and there's some little bit, yeah, it's not finished completely, but it's really nice to live with that one. How does the whole process look like in our practice? So as I told, we don't have a phone number. You cannot join us by phone and just talk to us because we are occupied. We see between 40 and 60 clients per week. Sorry, we can't do more. But you can ask for a free consultation. You book in advance in the calendar at that moment, and we will call you. So, but it's not obligatory. If you are convinced already, then you can go to step 1, which is you book the initial assessment. We call it the brain map or the QE, quantitative EEG, QEG, which is the first appointment of 1 hour where we gather the data, we talk together. If you have any medical reports useful, bring them with you, the list of medications and things. After that, you do the cognitive test and the health questionnaires at your home on your PC. And we see again 1 week later, and we put all the data together and we explain you what we see and how does that make sense. This is normally quite interesting. I like to do that. That's my favorite part.
And give you written reports.
Yes, you have a lot of data, and we give you explanations. Maybe not everything you want to know, because maybe you have also, yeah, there are a lot of things. We cannot explain everything in the brain, but quite useful things. Then active part going to change, because it's nice to know things, but if you don't go into action, that doesn't change anything. Because if you understand the problem is not solved. Okay, how do we solve it? So we ask for an engagement of over 10 sessions, normally once a week, and each session is 1 hour, where we combine neurostimulation, maybe vagal nerve stimulation, and neurofeedback training. We do some talking. Sometimes we give you a little coaching impulses. It depends on what is going on. That takes normally 10 sessions, 10 weeks. So we talk about 3 months. Then you are done, and you are not done, but you are always better. Some people did more than 10, or less. No, less than 10, no. So it's the minimum. Yeah. But then after the 10 sessions, we do the brain map again. So don't forget the mantra. You can only change things if you measure. And we do the before and after, like I showed before. You redo the test, we redo the brain mapping, and we meet again. We put the things on the table, and we will tell you what we see as changes. You will tell us what you've remarked as changes, and if it's enough or not, it's your choice. After 10 sessions, it's like it's self-service. You can come back, or you can stop, or make a pause. Yes, and
we give you a lot of recommendations.
Yes, exactly.
Following.
Good. And then I mentioned we proposed a special offer. So how much does it cost? Oh, that was the question. We forgot in the FAQ.
Yeah.
So the first step is always to measure. Again, you cannot change a system without measuring it. So normally the 2 meetings and the analysis and the tests and everything is €390, VAT included. but till the end of September, so we have 1 month, 4 weeks, it's 209 with the code anxiety 2022. So if you can, we will put the link in the chat where you can book this code you have at the end before paying. You enter this code and then you get the discount. So this is the first step. How much does the brain neurofeedback cost? I have a good and a bad news for you. In fact, it's the same. Normally a session is around 140 euro if you go for the 10-hour package, so the whole 10 sessions, and the brain map compare is included. The bad news is we have to go up with prices mid-September. So if you are hesitating or if you want to do it, you are decided. So just give you a little hint, book your sessions before mid-September. The price will go up. And yes, we always finish with the announcement of the next conference. So we will continue with our English session. And as September, October is we're back to school. So we will do one of the major application for not only for children, also for adults, which is ADHD. What is ADHD? I'm ADHD. This is the attention deficit disorder with or without hyperactivity. You know these kids like that's exactly that. And so we will do it in 4 weeks, a little bit more, on 4th October at 6 p.m. You can register on our Facebook page, and we will also launch a website till there. I hope so. Okay. Yes, as I mentioned, we are not available over phone, but you can contact us over email. There is the email address. It's not info without s, it infos because so much information at neurofeedbackluxembourg.com. Please follow us on Facebook or on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, where you will find always the latest conferences. All our conferences we did are available to watch again. And lots of people telling us that we are posting really interesting things on Facebook and LinkedIn. So we try to stimulate your brain with positive news because the bad news are anyway there. Yeah. So now there is not one question. Whoa. So maybe if anyone wait, we were so clear or we lost them all.
Maybe I hope that we didn't lost anyone, but I see that someone is typing.
Yes, please, this is the moment where you can ask your questions.
I hope that everything was clear.
We have a look at maybe of Facebook. Is there something going on till the question comes? I don't think I see. No. They are all in holidays or they're so relaxed they don't need us. I'm happy. No question, but really interesting. So it's like reading my daughter. We'll contact you. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much, Sandy. And yeah. Will the effect be lasting or does one need to repeat sessions after a while because the brain goes back to what it was before the training? Really good question. We forgot to talk about one topic, the neuroplasticity.
Yes,
Okay, then really good question.
Thank you.
As I told in the entry of the conference, the neurofeedback, it's a learning process. It's an operant conditioning, not the Pavlovian conditioning, but the operant conditioning, because we reward the positive behaviors of the brain and we punish, not punish, but yeah, you understand, you got it, the bad behaviors, too much anxiety, too much stress. And this, during one session, to give you an idea, we have over I made the calculation. It over 1,500 feedbacks in one session. So it's 1,500 repetitions for the brain. No, 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 no. And then comes the magic word of neuroplasticity. I don't know who heard this word or not, but I will try to guess it. I studied psychology and some biology in the year 1992. That doesn't make me younger, but at that moment we learned, and through psychology courses, that we have a limited number of neurons and that the brain they cannot rewire, they cannot. So each and that I remember exactly the professor telling us. So each time you drink too much alcohol, you kill millions of
Yeah.
neurons.
Or each time you hit your head,
It was a shock for us because, yeah, okay, no more to need. But then 2001, I forgot the name of the person who proved the neuroplasticity, who got the Nobel Prize medicine. Eric Kandel. Eric Kandel
yes,
came.
with
Cab driver. Eric Kandel got a Nobel Prize of medicine in 2001 because he proved what is called neuroplasticity. What is it? Neuroplasticity means that the brain, and it's the only structure in the universe, maybe a part of the universe, who adapts structurally to the things it does. What does that mean? If you are doing everyday Sudokus, your brain will, will the connections, the part of the brain which are active for doing Sudokus, they will be strengthened and they will be thickened. There will be more neurons. They will be interconnected.
things that wires
Together,
together,
fires together, wires
Yes.
together. So this is fantastic. So because if you do everyday mathematics, the mathematics, which are more here, part of the brain will be better interconnected. And if you repeat it over years, these small routes will be changed to highways and they will get used. But what is the price of the neuroplasticity? It also works on the other way around. What you don't use, you will lose it. That's why you need to repeat and to stimulate your brain. The baddest thing you can do is when people retire. Oh, now I will do nothing. Okay, then you can also book your place at the cemetery because your brain will go down. The brain needs stimulation. So, coming back to the question, will it stay? Yes, if it stays, if you are changing the things in your life which brought us here. Example, if you have um, an oppressive partner, if you have a really bad boss who threatens you, I don't know, whatever, and you come here to neurofeedback, we will take you the fear out. That it works. I know, but you didn't change your life, so you will go back to the situation which caused it. Um, so then neurofeedback, what tell the clients is we cannot change your life, but we can help you change your brain so that you have the energy and you have the motivation to make the changes in your life, which brought us here, the reasons. If it's only, like I mentioned, mitochondria and microglia, things like this, which brought you here, a dysregulation, a temporary state, we can bring you back on track. So and it works really, really, really good. So yes, the result stays, especially with children. That's the children brains are so plastic because they change so fast because they're not adult. The adult brain, you're only adult at 25, 28. So yes, the children is really, really fast. Things which are impacting the long-lasting effects are, as I told you, medications. Medications stabilize you, but they impact really badly the neuroplasticity. because they are protective, but they are also protecting you from change.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Other things are, which is underestimated, are physical blows to the head. So, what we call light traumatic brain injury. So, mild traumatic brain injury,
Concussion.
concussion. You can call it whatever you want. If you're doing Thai boxing, and then doing neurofeedback, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
It's not a football and dating. In the States, example, I had a lot of discussions already with some football trainers. In the States, kids below 16 years old are not allowed to hit the ball with the head, and there's a good reason why. Okay, what else could impact? Bad hygiene. Yeah, bad hygiene, sleep hygiene. If you don't sleep enough, if you don't sleep, then the learning effect doesn't occur because the learning effect occurs during the sleep. If you are watching 20 hours per day television, not a good idea. If you are
too much sugar.
Sugar is the enemy of the brain. It's the enemy. You see, often anxious people like the sugar because it gives them the energy. The problem is after 2 hours, you have to again. That doesn't work well. Okay. Yes, the effects are lasting. They showed us. I had I was in Munich at university. There was a researcher, Kiesel, who made uh, measurements with an fMRI scanner after one session of neurofeedback, and he did measurements a few months apart, and he could prove that there are structural changes measurable by fMRI scanner through neurofeedback. So imagine what is possible if you combine it with neurostimulation. That's nice. Good. We didn't finish that. There's still some people left.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for staying till the end.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if there's no more questions, then I will suggest we go to the last part. Is thank you for your available brain time, and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you very much.
And don't hesitate to contact us if you have more personal questions or other things. Often the anxious people, they need to think a lot about it and to ask a lot about questions. No problem. There are no stupid questions. There are only stupid answers. Okay.
Don't hesitate to contact us by email.
Yes. Thank you very much, and we say goodbye.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.